what's going on, everybody? So excited. Dominate the Diamond Show. Here we are, Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak, inside Zone Sports Academy. We got some really good topics for you today. Like always, please send us a note. Tell us where you're viewing from, the age that you're coaching, what level coach are you? Are you a first-time coach, a T-ball coach, a college coach, high school coach, travel coach? Let us know. We got some really cool stuff to recap for you this weekend. Coach Steve, you excited about today?
Oh yeah, always. Be sure to leave your questions and comments. That's what drives the content here. It drives all of our topics for the day. I've got a few good things. You know, we just got back from Georgia. We had our big week-long trip. We're getting ready for tryouts tonight. I had a great conversation with an umpire yesterday. I told him how we were talking about the umpire-coach relationship, parent relationship as well, over the last couple shows. So really, really good stuff. Be sure to leave some comments, let us know what you want us to cover today.
So we'll kick it off with, we had our 16-year-olds went to their first showcase. We're at Lehigh University, went down there. We took our 12 guys. We were having a blast. I talked to them prior to about almost like all the things you talk to the younger guys about when they're going for a tryout, right? Hustle, have fun, make sure you go all out, throw hard, field hard, all the things that you would do in a tryout. Make sure you're doing those same things in a showcase. So we start off the game, our leadoff hitter rolls over a ground ball to the shortstop, right? Rolls it over and just books it down first base. Boom. He ended up being out, but one of the coaches came over, knew exactly who he was, and he's like, hey, hard 90, great job. That was awesome right there. Way to bust it down the line. All the coaches were talking about you. Now, if you think about that, he rolled over a ground ball, right? He could have just been like, and took 70%, ran down, but instead he went full speed. They got him on the radar, on the stopwatch, and it turned something that was just an out into, whoa, this guy's fast. Wow, he hustles. The next at bat, he ripped a base hit, his second at bat. So it just, it turned into something really good. But so often, right? Oftentimes, kids just, they wear their at bat on the shoulder, we call it, right? They have a bad at bat. Next thing they take it out on the field and get out on the field instead of just, turning something maybe not so good into something good. Another kid, our number 5 hitter, did the same thing, hit a ball into the hole of the shortstop, booked it down the line, and was safe. And it's like, show off your speed, show off. Every time you're out on the baseball field, those 10 coaches, 12 coaches back there are watching every move that you make. And it's not always, oh, wow, did you hit 2 doubles and a home run? Sometimes it's, I was 0 for 2, but, I busted down the line. I made an awesome diving catch. This, that, and the other thing. So just like you're going to talk to the younger guys, make sure if you're running a tryout with the youth players that you talk about this prior to the tryout so they understand what you're looking for and understand what to do.
Yeah, there's always something that you can prove, and baseball and softball are funny because you're going to fail a lot. So these coaches that are going to watch you, whether it's a tryout or you're going to a showcase, they're not assuming that you're going to go 3 for 3, right? They want to see how you handle failure, how you battle adversity. So you always have something that you can prove, and like Duke said, it's hustling down the line, it's being on the top step of the dugout, it's picking up your guys on defense, and they want to see what kind of a person that, there is beneath, and what kind of a competitor that the person is, because there's so many things that go into it. And I know us getting ready for tryouts tonight, we can't assume that everybody's going to have their best day, so we have to do a really good job at keeping detailed notes and really trying to find out who these kids are that are trying out, not just what their exit velocity is and how fast they run, but what kind of a teammate are they? Are they a good kid? Are they coachable? Do they look the part? Is their uniform, worn correctly? There's so many different pieces that go into it. So that's just a great point by Duke, and I think it goes from college showcases all the way down to Little League tryouts, and we have to do a good job as coaches teaching these kids how to do all those little things correctly, because they do matter. And if we can teach them at a young age, it's not, all of a sudden I have to flip the switch and do it now because there's a coach watching. It's just the way they play the game. So something really, really important that I think we can all take something from.
And one of the things that I did as a coach, I reached out to the Lehigh coach, and AJ was like, I'm like, how are they taking batting practice? Is it going to be a pitcher, throwing overhand? Are they going to be front tossing? Are they going to be using machines? He's like, yes, we're going to have 2 hack attacks set up. 2 hack attacks. He told us how they were going to be. So all week long, some of our guys hate hitting off the machines. But if that's what you're going to do in your showcase, you better get good at it, right? So you have to practice it. You have to make sure that you're prepared for it. And he's right. They did have the hack attack set up, and they were probably like 25 feet away, it felt like. It was right on top of the guys, and it was like, and it was just, the ball was just darting at them. So the machine was set up pretty slow, but they really brought those things close, and our guys at least felt better. They were more prepared. We had talked to it prior to, but you have to make sure that you are prepared for your tryout. You are prepared for fielding ground balls, making sure you're working on your backhands, your slow rollers, pitchers are working on their different pitches, that sort of thing. So make sure you prepare yourself for the tryout so that when the tryout comes or you do see a machine, you're not like, oh man, you're defeated before you even start. You're ready to go. You're feeling prepared, and you can have you can put out a good show.
Definitely. Moses dropped in. What's up, Moses? We were down at East Cobb, we're really all over Georgia, but the tournament was perfect game hosted by East Cobb. It was a fun one there. I think there were 458 teams down there, and we battled. We came back. We were 3-2. Saw some good competition. Saw some teams with probably more guys than our three 16U teams combined, but we battled out there. We had one rough game, and unfortunately down there, if you have one bad game, you're not going to make the playoffs. But I was proud of their effort. They did a good job down there.
So, Coach Steve, in the beginning of the show, you were talking about the fact that you were able to talk to an umpire. Was he an old umpire, a young umpire? What were you guys talking about?
It was awesome. I actually helped out one of our 16U teams yesterday, and we were at a perfect game tournament. This gentleman was umpiring first base. I would say a little bit older. He's been umping for a while, and I mentioned how we talk a lot about the coach umpire and the parent umpire relationship, and he went on to tell me that about 10 years ago, the average age of a new umpire was 23 years old. Today, the average age of a new umpire is 55 years old. And it's because nobody wants to do it. And the reason this conversation was even brought up is because he told me he had 6 straight games yesterday. It was 105 degrees out there. We were playing on turf. And I asked him why he had 6 straight games, and he said because nobody wants to umpire. We talked a few weeks ago about that the older guy that got punched in the face and had to get his jaw wired shut because the coach went nuts over. It ended up being a balk call. That's what I heard. They were losing bad, but the guy just let his emotions get the best of him and actually hit the umpire. And he said to me, he's like, I can't find guys that want to work. Other organizations or travel organization will reach out and say, hey, can you come up? We don't have anybody to ump. And they're really struggling right now to find quality umpires that want to go out there and do it. And a lot of it has to do with the coaches and the parents because it's not fun for them. And he told me, I'm out here because I love the game. I love everything about baseball, and I love being involved, and I love watching a good pitcher, and I'm out here to do a good job, and I'm out here to get the call right. Do I miss calls? Of course, I'm human, and I'm going to make mistakes. And I told him about how we discuss going out and introducing yourself, shaking the umpire's hand, looking at him in the eye, being respectful. And he said, I have no problem when a coach comes out. Of course emotions are going to be high and guys are going to be fired up and they're competitive and sometimes they're going to be loud. I let them say their piece, but when it gets to a certain point, I tell them they got to go back to the dugout. I don't want to get cursed out. I don't want to get screamed at. Parents screaming at me from the stands, but it starts with us coaches, right? I was a firsthand conversation with a guy that's been doing it for 20 years, and he told me that they're struggling to find umpires because of us, because of youth baseball and softball coaches, forgetting the reason why we're out there. We're trying to develop boys and girls to become, middle school baseball players, softball players, to play in high school, hopefully play in college one day. We can't lose sight of the fact that we're out there to have fun, we're out there to develop them, and to compete, right? These guys are out there as umpires to do a good job. Of course, there's a 1 in 1,000 where the guy, thinks he's got it all figured out and he's not approachable. But I think if we're respectful and we handle things the right way, everything's going to be fine. And the game will be fine, and the communication between the coach and the umpire are going to be fine. But it starts with us at teaching our players how to be respectful, teaching our parents that they have to sit in the stands and be parents. They can't be screaming at every pitch or every time they disagree with a call, standing up on the fence and screaming at the umpire. That doesn't make it fun, right? This guy's out there in 102-degree weather umping 6 straight games. If you disagree with something, go out, talk to him quietly, be respectful about it. Maybe he'll ask for help, maybe he won't, but that's all you can do, right? I think it's something that after the conversation yesterday, I didn't realize how much of a bind they were in terms of finding quality umpires because nobody wants to do it anymore. And the age gap from the average being 23 years old to now 50, 55 years old is is a lot, and it says a lot.
Yeah. Let's take our first question here from Coach Moses. What's the best way to upgrade your bat and throwing speed? Well, I think that's a great question. I think that we'll add in the link, because I think that one of the best ways to improve your throwing speed is to make sure that you have clean throwing mechanics. Right, if you have clean throwing mechanics, then you can mix in, people talk about weighted balls, there's weighted ball routines. But I think before you get into weighted balls, you have to make sure that you're throwing properly first, not just grabbing weights and doing all these different movements without really understanding what to do. And Mikey Nicorak has an awesome pitching program that you can check out. We're going to add in the 3-day free trial that you get access to all of our stuff, and he has an actual pitching course on there, and it's the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of pitching. And I think that's a great place to start with. There's band work in there, there's proper throwing mechanics, there's everything you need. So I think that that's something that really would help. We also have an arm activation routine that you can either use with just 5 out, with baseballs, with bands. You'll see that too. You can download that. And just, you guys can have that forever. So I think that's something with the throwing. With the hitting, I think it's really staying connected and making sure that your swing is short and quick. You're using your lower half. It's not how much your upper body and just swinging hard. It's more being connected and have a good, smooth swing and understanding what you're doing to barrel up the baseball. So do you have anything else for,
that's good.
For that?
That's really good. Coach Mike's got a good one. My kid is trying to figure out what team to play for. The team he played for last year had better coaching, facilities, and players. On the new team with minimal facilities and coaching, but with all of his friends. He'd either be the 3rd or 4th best on the better team and the best on his new team. He is torn, and I don't know what to tell him. I'm going to let Coach Duke answer that one, because he's got younger kids, so he might have a better understanding.
You know what, Coach Mike? I think it starts with talking to your son and asking him what he wants to do. Because at 8 years old, I guarantee you he wants to just play where his friends are, right? So if you're thinking about what's best for his development, what team's really better, probably the first one, right? The one that he's going to be maybe 3rd or 4th best, but the facilities are better, the coaches are better. He might become and develop into a better baseball player right in the beginning, but think of it the other way. If he does play with a bunch of his buddies, maybe he's the best kid. Like, that's not always good. You want to be the best guy because you're not really getting pushed. But if he's having fun and next year the kids stay together and they're getting better and better, now he gets a better coach, now they get into facilities, maybe this group of kids all move up to a different organization, or they join forces with the other organization, or who knows what. But I think you have to ask the ball player, and at only 8 years old, it is about having fun, playing with your buddies, and getting that fire to drive you to want to play the game. So I think that's a big part of it. Then when he's 9, maybe he realizes, it's not just about playing with my friends. Like, I want a little bit more. I don't want to be the best kid. I want to be pushed by. Well, then you make a move when he's 9 years old. But if he's saying, Dad, I just want to play with my friends, that's fine. Just have him play with his friends. It's not like he's 14 and it's a different ball game. He's 8. So if he wants to play with his friends, let's go. Go do that. And then next year, he may have a different response or want to play on a different team, or he may just love where he's at and he'll blossom and bloom and be awesome. So you may see him take on leadership roles and help out his friends, and there's all kinds of goods that can come out of that too. So I would try not to sway him one way or another. I would ask him what he wants to do, and whatever, based on his answers, then you can guide him from there.
I know one thing we're getting ready for tonight is our tryout. We have our first tryout tonight. I think we have 50 kids coming in, all different ages, and I'm sure some of you guys are going through that with the summer season wrapping up. We're getting ready for fall ball. You organizations out there are getting ready for tryouts, and it's a challenging time because you have so many kids, and you want to make sure as a staff you do a good job evaluating. And one thing we always take pride in is speaking to the kids beforehand and letting them know, guys, we're going to be nervous tonight, right? You're going to be a little anxious. Don't assume you're going to be perfect, but the one thing you can control is your attitude and your effort. So while you're out here, take a big deep breath, be the hardest working kid here, and let's go. What we do, we take them through a good warm up. We take them through a throwing program. We measure their running speed, we measure their ball exit speed, we measure their raw velocity, and we keep track of these measurable numbers so that at the end of the tryout, we always have specific numbers to go back on, right? It gives somebody, or it gives a family something to take home to say, well, the average raw velocity was 58 miles an hour, and your son's only throwing 39 miles an hour. We also take notes, so we take a ton of notes on the kid, on their footwork, on maybe their mechanics, on their attitude, their effort, coachable, good kid, not a good kid. So we take probably a couple paragraphs on each kid, so that at the end we all sit down in the boardroom and we go over, these are the best 12, these are the next 12, these kids are probably not going to make the team this year. But what we do is we have an initial tryout where we get all of these numbers and we get all of these evaluations done, and then we invite them back for round 2 of tryouts, and that's where we take our current players, the new players, and we actually play a game. Sometimes it's 9 innings, sometimes it's 15 innings, but I'm putting them in that game-like atmosphere of just going out there and competing. Go out there and have fun. There's going to be a different pitcher throwing each inning, and that's a really good opportunity for us to see who that player is, because some kids will look great in the batting cage, but then the second there's a pitcher standing on the mound, it gets ugly quick. But we take our time with it. We try not to rush it. We take tons of comments. Every kid gets their ground balls at shortstop. They throw across to first. Every outfielder goes out to right field. They catch fly balls. They come through on some ground balls. They fire to third base and home plate. Every pitcher gets an opportunity to throw, and then everybody gets on-field BP. I think the key to running a good tryout is 1, being super organized. Yep. 2, taking some measurables, but also taking tons of notes and comments on each player. And then 3, what we love to do, and this is probably the most important, is always invite the kid in for an evaluation, or for kind of a post-tryout recap, and go through with them their exact evaluation. Tell them their numbers. Tell them the comments that the coach has left on them, and then give them something to take home and get better. We don't want to just tell the kid, no, you're not good enough. Hopefully we'll see you next year. It's, okay, here's the building blocks and the roadmap for you to make the team next year, whether it's our team or somebody else's team, but we want to equip them with everything they could possibly use to get better, whether they're on our team or not. So I know some of you guys are going through that. I think we have a tryout process that we've posted, and we'll be sure to add that for all you coaches out there or organizations that are getting ready for fall tryouts.
And I think another thing is, coaches, make sure you guys bring the energy as well, right? Make sure that, like Coach Chief said, you take a knee, you talk to the players, you explain what the tryout process is going to be. Some of these kids, it's the first time they're ever trying out. So they're nervous, they're scared. You're going to see kids just, babying the ball and trying not to make a mistake, opposed to you telling them, listen, air it out. I want you guys to run hard. I'd rather see you at third base take the ball and throw it 100 miles an hour over the first baseman's head than to try to just make a good throw and throw it half speed just so you make a good throw. Like, take that thing and really show off your skills, show off your athleticism, and kind of, motivate them and pump them up as they're going through the process, especially when you know it's their first time, because it is a little nerve-wracking, right? You don't know what's going to happen if they don't make the team, or what their parents are like, or so it's just have fun with it, let them have fun with it, and enjoy the process.
Coach Conrad's got a good one. Thanks for coming back. Coach Ryan, how often do you have coaching clinics? Is it weekend, weekdays? We'd love to attend one, but Maine is a hike. Maine is a hike. A lot of times we do them in the spring. So we basically started Dominate the Diamond from running free coaches clinics for all the surrounding little leagues. Guys would come in with their gloves and sometimes their jeans and work boots, and we'd put them through a full coaches clinic, kind of A to Z. And that's what really motivated us to create this and give coaches something to take home and take with them into practice and into games, and include videos and write-ups and, like I said, practice plans. We haven't run really a big monster one for Dominate the Diamond, but it's in the works, and we've been talking about it, and we'd love to host as many coaches as possible. It's something that we definitely have to get on the calendar here soon, because we've been talking about it for a while.
Definitely. Coach Garcia, Coach Alfonso here, Riverside, California, 8U, 12U rec. What do you guys think of when to introduce softball to my daughter? She's 8, if at all. She's loving baseball, love your content. Thanks, Coach Garcia. I think, a lot of the girls that play baseball out here, once they get to 12 and they move up to the big field, that's usually when they start playing softball, if, they want to keep them and try to play baseball as long as possible. So I mean, obviously, if they're 9, 10, they know what softball is. They've already kind of been introduced to it. It's just a matter of, do they want to just keep on playing baseball, or when do they want to make that switch? But here, usually, it's the age of 12 is usually when they kick back over to softball. Once they get into middle school, they play softball. But when they're in Little League, they play baseball. So I don't think there's any wrong or right reason. I think it's depends on your daughter, on the athlete, like what they want to do. But that's just a gauge from here in New Jersey. What most girls do is that.
Coach Mike was leaving a comment to our previous question about the 8U player not really sure what team to play on. Tells parents all the time, I didn't start playing baseball until I was 12 or 13. People found out real quick I could throw a baseball for strikes, flat-footed from dead center, surpassed all the kids that played since they were 4. This happens all the time, so go with the kids team that's developmental and fun. Thanks for that, Coach Mike. Yeah. 100% on point. I think that kind of goes along with everything Coach Duke said there. We appreciate it.
Coach Merrill, I have a kid with a low arm slot. He's young and good, 7U next year, and he's a lefty. Wondering how to work with him on throwing mechanics. I'm afraid of changing him, and it could cause injury. I guess it depends on how low he's throwing, right? If it's a natural low arm slot, you see tons of guys in the big leagues with lower arm slots. And he's 7, so it's probably just how he naturally throws. We'd have to probably see it to give better, is he throwing with his body up and his arms down here, or is he kind of throwing more like this? So it just depends. With that, again, I would click on and go through Mikey's course, go take a look at the pitching course, look at some of the mechanics, some of the foundational stuff that they have in there of throwing. I think that could really help.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that play Major League Baseball that throw from a low arm slot, so it's tough to say, like Duke said, without actually seeing video. Lefty, so I'm guessing he's not a middle infielder, first baseman, outfielder, especially as he gets older. Those are the positions he's going to play. So those positions, it's probably better to be a little bit more over the top. Middle infielders, sometimes they'll drop down and throw from a lower 3/4 sidearm arm slot. But if you can, try to add a video on there for us, or just shoot us an email, and I'd love to take a look and maybe give you some pointers.
Are there any coaches out there that are heading to Cooperstown or just got back from Cooperstown? We'd love to hear some stories from you. We just sent both of our teams down. Our 12U Elite Select are down there right now, having a blast. And I think one of the important takeaways is, depending on the team, you're going to have some teams that are straight from California, like a Team Combat or a Team Rawlings, and they are awesome. And then you're going to have rec teams. You're going to have travel teams. You're going to have teams from Canada. You're going to have teams from all over the place. And there's all different levels. So if your team's going out there and maybe the first day you kind of get beat up a little bit and you give up some runs and you lose a big game, just always remember to have fun and to just turn the page. Because you're playing 2 games a day for 3 straight days. But there's so much more to Cooperstown than, did I win, did I lose? There's going to Cooperstown, there's team dinners, there's, the home runs, there's so many cool things about it. So, my advice is just make sure you have fun and make sure the kids are having a blast in the bunks, and, because it's going to happen when you might get blown out. And don't just be like, oh my gosh, and have a miserable day and just take it and just get rid of it. The kids have a short memory. Once the game's over, just try to swipe it out, wipe it down, and just move on to the next game, because one of our teams, lost by a big amount, and the whole entire time I was just texting the coach, stay calm, have fun. And then the next game they came out and they beat the other team, and it was just like, but in the moment sometimes you're like, what do I do? They're using the big barrels, guys are whacking home runs, and it's like, it seems like the game's never gonna end. And it's over before you know it. So just have fun out there. It's a great experience.
That reminds me of last week when I was talking about the coach from WWBA, and he said, it can bring out the best or worst in you.
Yeah.
So understanding all of the positives that come out of a trip like that. It's not necessarily did we win the whole thing, or, did we play great baseball the whole time? Of course we want to play great baseball, but it's staying level-headed, staying, in the moment, and realizing that 12U trip for those kids is sometimes going to be the best baseball memory of their life. Yeah. So it's really trying to stay positive and pull positives out of everything. I talk all the time about keeping a little note card in your bag, because after you get beat up bad, it's hard to talk after the game. You're trying to dig for things to say, But I think if you keep a note card in your pocket and keep track of the things that you did well or the things that you struggled with throughout the game, you can always leave the game with a positive note. And the good thing about a trip like that is 2 games a day, you can bounce back like that. And before you know it, you win the next one, and the kids forget about that first big loss. So make sure you don't lose sight of the fact of the real reasons why you're there and all of the great memories, because kids aren't going to remember what their team record was at Cooperstown. They're going to remember all the other things, like Duke said, the team dinners, the home run derbies, the competitions, the fun things that they get to do, the hanging out in their bunks.
Yeah.
We had a big event last year. It's called our Zone Signing Day, and it's for all the kids that are moving on to play college baseball or softball. And Duke was our keynote speaker, and he spoke about Cooperstown. And there was 4 or 5 kids in the group that were graduating to play in college. And he didn't talk about anything that happened on the field. It was funny stories about being in the bunks, funny stories about kids eating all the junk food. One kid hit his first home run. And those are the memories that Duke took with him. I bet you he couldn't even say whether or not they went 3-3 or 6-0 when they were up there. But it's those funny memories that those kids are going to take with them forever. So make sure you soak all that in and really try to stay present while you're there.
This is a good one right here too, Coach Merrill. Can you talk to optimal team sizes at different ages that you all suggest? Well, what we do on our teams is we think that 12 is a good number, right? We think that 12 when you're 10, 11, and 12, we like 11's a little bit easier to manage because you only have 2 guys on the bench, but 12 makes it a little more, you have to make sure that you have enough pitching. You have to make sure you have 2 catchers. You have to make sure, so it's not just how many players do you have, it's making sure that your team, encompasses all the elements of what you need. So you need to have the 2 catchers, 8 pitchers, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we do up until 12. I think once you get 13, 14, 15, now having numbers of 13, 14, 15 kids, but some of our kids are pitcher onlys, that's it. So we have our 12 position players, but then we have, if we take on another guy, it's only as a pitcher. So we could have up to 15 guys, but 3 of them might only be pitchers. So that way, you're not taking away time from your core position player group, from when you're doing that. We go down sometimes, there's Cooperstown teams that have 18 guys in it. We go to Perfect Game, there's 18, 20 guys, because the further you get, the more arms you need, and then the more games you're playing in a day. Like even only our 11-year-old team this weekend, we had our 2 games on Saturday, then you have your first playoff game on Sunday. You can play as many as 3 games, and in the bigger Perfect Games, you might be playing 4 or 5 in one day. So if you're playing 4 games in a day, you need way more bodies and arms and stuff like that. So to answer your question, I think it just depends on, what age you are talking about, what level. Is it a rec team or is it a travel team that's, playing weekend tournaments, or, because that stuff's so important. And, if you get too light on teams having like 9 or 10 guys, yeah, it's simple to coach because there's only 10 guys. But if one guy gets hurt, or when your shortstop goes into pitch, do you have another guy that's legitimately a shortstop? Or are you bringing your second baseman over there? Are you then bringing an outfielder into play second? And that's when the team kind of, the solid part of the team is no longer, you can't perform the way that you normally would. So that's when you would need another guy, and you would go that way. But I think we like 11, 12. We kind of lean more towards the 12, and then from there, 13 and up, it's just everyone just plays as a PO to that way. So yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of this past weekend, talking about the preparation for tryouts, that's exciting for us. We also, as the season's winding up for us, so we have our last tournament this weekend, and we always talk about post-season, kind of like exit interviews. That's what we call them. So it's really like performance. So we sit down with every parent, every kid, one-on-one with the 2 coaches, and we talk about what they did great, what they can improve on, and we also ask them what was their best part of the season, and then how could we as an organization do better, and then how can we as coaches do better. So there's nothing better than feedback. Us giving the players and the parents feedback on the player, but us also getting feedback on ourselves and our organization. So we highly recommend you as coaches taking that little bit of time, sitting down with every single kid, and just kind of telling them, here's what you did great this year, here's what you did well, here's some of the things that you need to improve on, here's how you can do that, and then we look forward to next year. So that way that player knows he's leaving with with an idea, with a game plan, with a blueprint of what he can do to get better. And us as coaches, they'll tell us what we can do to get better. But one of the things that I enjoy the most is listening to, what was your best part of the season? What was your most favorite moment? And what was just the best part of the team? And hearing some of the really cool things that they say, I think that'll really fuel you up and energize you and motivate you into why you coach. And they're not going to say, they may say, I hit my first home run, but more it's going to be like, I remember in, the Father's Day weekend, we were down in Atlantic City and we were all playing manhunt in the parking lot. Like that has nothing to do with baseball. Exactly. Those are some of the things that we're talking about, the fun part of the game, or somebody, just fun stuff that happens along the way. So I think the exit interviews is something that is really important that everybody should do.
It's awesome. Coach Larry's got a good one. How many warm-up pitches do you recommend when a new pitcher comes into the game? That's tough. I mean, it depends on whether it's it's a kid coming off the bench or maybe it's a kid coming from shortstop. But I think pitchers have to be aware that they have to be hot when they get on the mound. And what I mean by that is they have to have a sweat going. They have to have thrown all of their pitches in the bullpen. Our starting pitcher, I have a kid that likes to get there an hour and a half early. He does his dynamic warm-up. He gets the foam roller out. He gets his bands out. He does body blade. He throws the plyo balls against the wall. I mean, it is a full hour-long warm-up on preparing himself to get ready to pitch that day. On the flip side, I have kids that can play the infield, play all day and go down to the pen and throw 10, 15 pitches to get loose. And I think it depends on the age as well. So, a lot of it comes into what situation in the game are you in. I always try to tell our guys if I'm planning on pitching them the next inning and they're not up, while we're hitting, let's get down to the bullpen and throw some pitches. Let's get loose, even if they're not starting that inning and they're going out to play shortstop or center field. This way, when they do get on the mound, they've already thrown 15, 20 pitches down there. They're getting a feel for their four-seam, their two-seam, their changeup, whatever breaking balls they throw. But they have a sweat going. One thing I love to do with our pitchers is throw to a couple simulated hitters in the pen. So instead of just going down there and firing balls just to say I'm getting loose, actually go down there and say, okay, 0-0 count here. They throw their 15 pitches, but now we're going to throw to 3 batters, 0-0, and they throw a fastball down and away. They throw a two-seamer in. They throw a changeup down. And the catcher's calling balls and strikes, and they treat it like a batter, because I think what you'll see at younger ages, kids will go down there, they'll fire 10 balls, all right, I'm ready, and then they go in and the balls are flying all over the place, and they haven't really located or picked up on the strike zone yet. So I think it's making sure that we're aware of how many pitches they've thrown in pregame, how many balls they've thrown in between games, when was the last time they pitched, and for me, it's all knowing the individual. It's knowing who he is. Can he go down there and throw 12 pitches and lock in and go throw some strikes, or is he a kid like my starting pitcher that needs to get there early and warm up? Because if I looked at that kid and said, all right, man, go get loose, you got the next batter, there's no way that would work for him. Some guys it might, but I think it's the situation, it's understanding who the individual is and making sure that while they're in the bullpen, they're doing it with a purpose, not just to get loose.
And I also think that, to add to that is, as a coach, have your game plan. Who's going to start? Who's next in line? Who's third in line? Who's fourth in line? So that if Johnny's going to pitch second, well, maybe in the third inning, he sits that inning and he gets warm, he gets ready, he gets loose, so he's ready to go and not, oh no, you're just winging it. Uh-oh, he's starting to get in trouble. Okay, now let's take Johnny out of shortstop and let's pitch him. It's like, that's usually not a win-win situation. So as much as you can do planning-wise of figuring, okay, this guy's going to pitch second, so let's make sure maybe he's sitting inning 3 and 4 so that he can go in there in 5 or at any time he's ready to go, I think is super important, and not just, oh no, when I get in a jam, maybe I'll pitch him, maybe I'll pitch him. It's, I know sometimes it just happens that way sometimes, but you really want to try to prevent that. That way the guy can mentally get ready, physically get ready, and now when he enters the game, you're getting a guy that's ready to pitch and not just got his 5 or 6 warm-up pitches from shortstop and now he's got to pitch for you. So,
Coach Garcia, another good one. What points do you guys hit on in your post-game speeches? I think it all depends on how the game went, man. It's Those are tough, but like I said earlier, one thing I like to do is I keep a little note card with me, and I'll keep track of things. Whether it's executing a bunt, getting a hit and run, moving a guy over, executing a cuts and relay situation, maybe a catcher hustling down the first baseline and backing up an errant throw. I always try to keep track of the positives that happen throughout the game, as well as the negatives. This way, when we go down there, it's not a 15-minute talk on all the things we did bad and things that we need to work on. It's, all right, guys, maybe we did lose that game. We struggled offensively. We hit a couple balls hard, but I really liked the way we competed. I really liked, the 2 dirt ball reads we got. I like the fact that we moved guys over. We battled with 2 strikes. So I try to touch on a little bit of everything. I always try to recap if our pitchers did a good job. We'll clap it up for our starting pitcher or whoever came in relief. Always try to touch on the highlights and then say, here are a few things we got to work on this week. Let's get ready to get better for next week. So I think it's a little bit of everything, but making sure it's short and sweet, because the kids will lose focus like that, especially if you're dealing with the younger players. I think it can't be a 15-minute talk down there, because kids are worried about going swimming or going to get ice cream after the game half the time, and they're not even listening to you. So short and quick. But definitely as a coaching staff, try to keep notes, because then it also prepares you for next week's practice plan.
That's awesome. I think, and definitely, you see this all the time. Don't beat the kids when they're down. After a loss, it's not going over there and using your post-game speech to just grind them out for everything they did wrong, all the stuff that's bad, Instead, you keep it short and sweet. You say what you have to do, like Coach Steve said. You already have your game plan. Hey guys, we're gonna work hard this week on some of the things that we didn't do well. We're gonna have a great practice plan. Let's hit it hard next week. Like, they already lost the game. They know what they did wrong. You can touch on it a little bit, but don't harp on it for a half hour. And you see that all the time in games. And it's just like, where are they going with that? So
that happened to us last weekend. We were out in a perfect game tournament, and the coach was talking to his guys for like 30 minutes down the right field line, and we're trying to warm up. We can't even get ready for the next game. Meanwhile, the umpire told me, all right, 20 minutes and we're starting. We have no space to get loose, and this guy's just ripping his team down the right field line. So aside from the kids not wanting to hear it, the guys that are playing the next game don't want to hear it either.
So listen, hope everybody enjoyed the live. We're always excited to do this. Make sure you add some questions in the comments. We'll be sure to get back to them next week. We're going live again next week, so have your questions teed up and ready to go. Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak at Zone Sports Academy from Dominate the Diamond. Thank you so much for watching the show. We'll see you next time, and dominate the day.